Welcome to Building What We've Learned. Today we are building the Labyrinth of the Minotaur and discussing its connection to the Minoan civilization, and how the only piece of evidence the larger world had of an entire Bronze Age empire's existence was this single story. So let's get building! The story of the Minotaur starts off on the island of Crete, an idyllic land of mild weather, pristine beaches, and delicious food. It begins with the adopted son of a king named Minos. In this story, Minos asks Poseidon to help prove that he is worthy to rule his father's kingdom. Poseidon answers the man's prayer with a white bull, believing that this bull would be sacrificed to him once Minos had secured his reign. Minos did not do this, however. He believed that the bull was too precious and special to be sacrificed. Minos instead offered a less impressive cow to Poseidon. Upset by Minos' decision, Poseidon asked the goddess Aphrodite to make the king's wife, Pasiphae, fall in love with the prized bull. This charm was not put on the bull, and the queen soon learned that the bull would not sleep with her because she was human. To get around this, she commissioned Daedalus to create a hollow bull statue that she could fit inside. One day, and 9 months later, a child is born by the name of Asterion. The birth of a queen's son would typically be called for celebration. However, this child was born with the unfortunate fate of his father and the unique dietary restrictions of only being able to eat humans. The king seemingly took this in stride, and after consulting with an oracle, he commissioned Daedalus to build a home for the boy beneath the palace. A giant labyrinth of twisting halls was built, with a single entrance for convenient child sacrifices. Once the labyrinth is completed, the king locks Daedalus and his son Icarus up in a tower. Daedalus is not fond of being in prison for a job the king hired him to complete, so he built wings for him and his son. Icarus famously flies too close to the sun, and Daedalus escapes. What is interesting about a labyrinth is that they're not typical mazes. There's no dead ends or pointless corridors. A labyrinth is one twisting path that circles back on itself over and over and over again until eventually you reach the center. Ancient mosaics depict them in squares and circles, and in some cases hexagons, all with one way in and no way out. To feed his stepson, the king uses Athenian children. Athens was at fault for one of the king's favorite sons dying, so they agreed to hand over 14 children every 4 years to avoid a lengthy war. For 27 years this worked until a man by the name of Theseus got involved. He volunteered to be part of the next sacrifice, and thus was shipped off to the island of Crete. While there, Theseus meets the daughter of the king, Ariadne, who in some tellings had spent her childhood dancing through the halls of the labyrinth. She agrees to help Theseus in exchange for him taking her to Athens and marrying her once the job was complete. She breaks him out of the tribute cell and gives him a sword and a ball of string, and he uses her plan to not only navigate the labyrinth, but find his way out after killing her half-brother. Once word reaches the king of what Theseus has done, the king becomes furious at the death of his wife's child. Theseus, Ariadne, and the surviving Athenians flee the island. Theseus eventually abandons Ariadne on an island and sails away to continue his adventure. This is not where her story ends, however. She eventually marries Dionysus and has a remarkably stable relationship after becoming a goddess. Ariadne has several fascinating myths about her that existed long before her involvement with the Minotaur, some saying that she was a warrior who fought in battles alongside the gods. It's an interesting deep dive that we don't have time to go into today, but needless to say, the goddess of the labyrinth and the wife of madness is just as cool as it sounds. So that is the story of the Minotaur. But what about the people of the island of Crete? The Minoan civilization is far older than Athens, and by the time the legend as we know it today was being told, the place was already largely forgotten. For thousands of years, the only evidence we had that an entire maritime empire existed was this story. That was until 1900, when a man was curious about the jewelry some of the locals wore on the southernmost island of Greece. He went digging in the direction that they pointed him and found some pottery. He then purchased the land and quickly unearthed the ruins of a beautiful royal palace. During this process, he did some questionable reconstruction work on the ruins, using the ruins themselves. From the remains of the palace, we can tell that it was expertly constructed, with a complex layout of twisting halls and corridors that allowed for warehouses, marketplace, workshops, and storage rooms, all to be housed within the structure. Scholars believe this place functioned not only as a residence for the ruling class, but also as a key part of the economy. A way to distribute goods, so a fisherman could walk in with his catch of the day and leave with foreign gold and grain. Crete's position as an island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea allowed for a strong naval defense instead of fortified walls. Their interaction with mainland nations meant goods could be easily traded or captured through piracy. While we can learn a lot about these people through their architecture, we have been unable to translate their language. They seem to have two different writing systems, Linear A and a hieroglyphic language. Linear A is written in the same symbols as Linear B, an early Greek alphabet. However, they were spoken in two different languages, and so Linear A remains untranslated. The hieroglyphic writing form is theorized to be influenced from their interactions with Egypt, though once again is spoken in an unknown language. So we are left to depend on what art has survived to modern times, many of which depict bulls. Bulls decorate their paintings, their homes, their potteries. Their horns are carved into the statues around the palace. These animals clearly played an important part of their lives and cultures. However, the detail on the how and the why remains a mystery. It's worth noting that the idea of a Minotaur-like creature is unique to Greece's story, as a man with a bull's head appears nowhere on the island of Crete. Another large difference between the mainland and the island of Crete is the role that women have played in daily lives. The art that has survived on the island depict women in an important role in either religion or politics, dressed in elaborate clothing and surrounded by male servants. They are the ones leading the processions to sacrifices, and it is interesting to note that no depictions of a king has ever been found on Crete. In the myth, while the king plays an important role in setting up the events to create the Minotaur, it is the women of the island who drive the story. Aphrodite, who has the queen fall in love with the bull. The queen, who devises a plan to spend the night with the bull. The king's daughter, who frees a foreign prince and gives him a plan and tools to succeed, who herself later becomes a goddess. It is impossible to say with certainty that Minoans were the ones who inspired the Minotaur. We know they had a maritime empire that spread throughout the islands of the Mediterranean and were visible from mainland Greece. The Mycenaeans, who lived on the southern east tip of Greece, on the land that would later become Athens, were constantly coming in contact with the Minoan pirates. We know the Mycenaeans eventually attacked the island of Crete shortly before the civilization collapsed. And archaeologists have found evidence of a Minoan colony just off the coast of modern-day Athens who were practicing human sacrifices and consumption. The Athenians were not the ones who killed the Minotaur. They knew so little of the lost empire, likely a fraction more than what we have today. What has survived is a story of a foreign prince raiding an enemy island, navigating the palace of twisting halls filled with images of bulls, to kill the queen's son and return home the city's hero. Thank you for watching. This is a bit of an experimental video for me, but I have really loved how it has turned out. I've been fascinated with myths and stories for all of my life, and I've decided to combine that with my interest in Minecraft, and I hopefully made something vaguely entertaining for you guys. If you're interested in seeing this series continue, please tell me stuff that I should learn about below, and I would love to do a deep dive into everything those entail. As always, if you liked this video, please hit that like and subscribe button, as it really does help out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!